Every culture tells the same story. In Mesopotamia, Gilgamesh speaks of a world drowned. In India, Manu was warned to build a boat before the waters rose. Across the Americas, the ancestors remembered a great flood. Were these myths or memories of a real event? Even Egypt spoke of waters that swallowed kingdoms. The Maya carved warnings of floods sent by the gods. In Polynesia, sailors braved waters that covered the earth. Even in Europe, stories of floods endured through the ages. In Australia, the Dreamtime tells of floods that reshaped the land. In the north, legends of floods carried down in runes and sagas. In China, floods were said to come with dragons from the deep. In Africa, elders spoke of waters that swallowed the earth. The Inca remembered with knots, floods that reshaped the Andes. Even in the frozen north, tales of the Great Flood endured. And always whispers of a lost city beneath the waves. The Black Sea once rose, drowning villages overnight. Some say even the first temples were built in memory of the flood. In Greece, the flood of Deucalion cleansed the world of men. In Israel, Noah's Ark carried life above the waters. The land itself bears the scars of waters long gone. Even kings recorded a world before and after the flood. In Mexico, temples told of gods who cleansed the earth with water. Beneath the sea, entire cities lie where the waves claimed them. The Norse sang of waves that swallowed ships whole. In Aztec lore, the world ended in water before it began anew. Across Asia, farmers told of floods that reshaped their fields. In the North Pacific, floods lived on in totems and tales. Reflections told of floods and dragons rising from the depths. Legends say floods once swallowed entire Andean cities. In the Isles of the Celts, even stones spoke of rising seas. On the steppe, shamans warned of floods that cleansed the earth. Even the desert remembers when it was drowned in water. In the high Himalayas, monks kept memory of a world drowned. On remote islands, the flood lived on in stone guardians. In Persia, floods were carved into the very walls of kings. The Olmec remembered waters that swallowed their world. In Cambodia, temples stood where floods once ruled the land. In Babylon, floods were pressed into memory itself. Near Japan, ruins lie drowned beneath the waves. In Hawaii, chants told of floods born from the sea gods. In Syria, tablets warned of waters that erased kingdoms. In Anatolia, even caves spoke of floods that reshaped the land. In the Amazon, pots carried memory of waters without end. In forgotten deserts, stone still tells of floods long past. In Africa's south, even shields bore memory of the waters. In Europe's lowlands, the earth itself told of floods. In Ugarit, stories of floods were pressed into stone. Even in Petra, floods were etched in stone. In India's wells, water still rises where floods once reigned. The Andes remember floods written in the land itself. In New Zealand, canoes carried the story of the waters. On desert rocks, the flood was carved into memory. Along the Nile, floods shaped kingdoms and myths alike. Even at Delphi, floods were carved into sacred stone. Where lakes vanished, the earth still speaks of floods. The Maya told of gods who drowned the world in water. In the north, even doors carried memory of the flood. Ziggurats rose above waters, yet the flood returned again. In the Himalayas, floods became visions of cosmic order. In Alaska, masks remembered the waters that once consumed the land. Beneath the Mediterranean, cities lie drowned by forgotten floods. In the highlands of Africa, stone spoke of floods long past. In the Amazon, the jungle hid memories of the waters. In Assyria, floods were seen as the judgment of the gods. In North America, even the lakes tell of ancient floods. In the Andes, doorways told of waters that reshaped the world. In the east, floods still swallow the land as they did before. In Armenia, even the mountains remembered the Ark. In the Mediterranean, whole cities lie beneath the sea. In Japan, tales spoke of villages lost to the waves. Even deserts remember the waters that once drowned them. In Anatolia, storms still echo ancient floods. In Peru, floods were carved into the desert stone. The Norse sagas told of seas that swallowed the earth. In the far west, floods were carved into the stone itself. In Korea, the heavens themselves unleashed the waters. In Armenia's lakes, the flood buried entire settlements. In Siberia, tusks carried the memory of the flood. Beneath the seas, even caves spoke of ancient waters. Patterns in cloth carried floods across generations. Even the earth remembers where the waters once carved paths. In song and chant, the flood was never forgotten. In Europe, drowned towers still rise above the waters. The Nile's floods were life and a memory of chaos. In Mesopotamia, the flood was pressed into clay itself. Even in America, floods left their mark upon stone walls. In Celtic lands, monks preserved the flood in illuminated words. Forests became seas, remembered as floods in old tales. In Persia, even sacred walls spoke of floods. Beneath the Aegean, temples still lie drowned. In Ethiopia, faith remembered the ark above the flood. Even in the Pacific, staffs carried memory of the waters. In India, even the gods were carved as masters of the flood. The Black Sea still whispers of floods that drowned the past. In the Arctic, bone carried stories of waters that consumed the world. High in the Andes, floods were carved into the living rock. In Cambodia, stone walls carried the memory of the flood. The great rivers of today echo the floods of long ago. The earth itself still carries the scars. Cities once thriving now lie silent beneath the waves. Science tells us seas have risen, worlds have drowned before. Were these only myths shaped by memory and fear? Or were they warnings, preserved so we would not forget? Across the world, ancient voices spoke of waters that ended an age, and they did so not once, but again and again. Perhaps they were remembering. If so many spoke of the same destruction, how much was myth? And how much was truth? The ancients left us a riddle. A whisper carried through temples, codices, chants, and sacred texts. A reminder that the past is never as distant as it seems. The flood may not be just a story. It may be a memory. And if it happened once, could it happen again?